Today on Off Road, we're headed deep into the mineral-rich lands of Atlantic Canada to explore the next frontier in gold and critical mineral discovery. I'm joined by Christopher Anderson, the CEO of Great Atlantic Resources, a company laser-focused on unexplored properties with untapped potential in New Brunswick and Newfoundland. With gold, antimony, and tungsten in the mix, and a strategy rooted in responsible exploration, Great Atlantic is positioning itself at the heart of the next big resource play. If you're an investor, speculator, or just a believer in bold vision and boots on the ground leadership, this is a conversation you don't want to miss. So, Christopher Anderson, welcome to Off Road.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, thanks for having me.
All right. Now, I didn't know, I didn't know that Atlantic Canada is an actual region.
It is a region, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was doing a little research, and it's like Newfoundland, Labrador, Prince Edward Island. Um,
Nova Scotia.
yeah, and New
Right.
Brunswick.
That's correct. Yeah.
Uh,
It's one of the some more economically depressed area of Canada.
oh, is
But
that right? I didn't know that. I mean, I know about Labrador retrievers, and I love them. So,
oh yeah, okay, fair enough. But it's host to many prominent families that come from, like the McCain's family comes from there. They control 80% of the French fries around the world. They come out of central New Brunswick,
Oh,
right?
wow. Okay.
Yeah, they head offices in like Florence, New Brunswick.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Oh, okay. Hey, well, let's start with the big picture.
sure.
What drew you to Great Atlantic Resources, and what excites you most about its current portfolio in Atlantic Canada?
Well, I started working there in early 2000, and I got introduced through a friend of mine that was involved with the government. It was in the mineral department in New Brunswick, and as we started to discover that New Brunswick is like, it's got a thin glacial till, and so it's like a treasure box. You know, it's not very deep, and then you're into everything's covered, but underneath there's a plethora of different types of rare and commodities. So you've got gold, tungsten, antimony, indium, a whole bunch of different, really unique types of metals that are there. They're just below the surface, right? So, and then it's an area where it's been very economic to operate in as well, because your costs of mobility and housing and all that kind of stuff is less expensive there as well. When you just have an opportunity to make discoveries out there. And in Newfoundland, a lot of the railroad tracks were tied up under concessions until the late '80s. So there was a lot of underexplored areas in there. And since I've been working there, I worked with the same geologists I've been working with there since the early 2000. We found a significant tungsten asset, brought it through to pre-feasibility. It's now got its federal permits, been taken over by Norcliffe, and it's going into production. So we've built some good relationships out there, and there's some great opportunities. So we just, Dave and I just said, after we got involved with that there was another tungsten asset we wanted to acquire, which we have, and we own 100% in GR. We just wanted to look for these high grade, interesting, unique opportunities and assemble them in the company.
Well, it
So
seems like you
that
guys, God, it seems like you guys focus heavily on underexplored regions and historic mining activity. Can you walk us through why this region and why your timing makes sense right now?
Well, our timing makes sense right now in the fact that we've had enough 20 years of working in the region, so and I've sat down at many of the prospectors' tables and families. We've gotten to know the area very, very well. And as I said, the other project that we have there, which is that we were involved with, called Sissenbrook, which is is a success. We've now assembled a good portfolio of properties in the antimony, tungsten, and gold space, and we paid them all off. So we own everything in the company 100%. And right now, with where we're sitting, our primary asset is the Golden Promise Mines properties,
That was my
and those.
next question. That was my next question. I know you guys are developing multiple properties across the New Brunswick and Newfoundland, but which project is currently the company's flagship, and
Oh,
what's the latest progress on the ground?
well, by far, it's Golden Promise. Golden
Okay.
Promise is a belt of about 32 kilometers long. We're 1 kilometer away from Equinox and Calabrio mines, which is that $2.6 billion deal that was done up in Newfoundland. We're in that Victoria Lake Superbelt group of rocks. We're one of 3 companies in that whole region. Newfound Gold's on one side, and Calabrio Equinox Mines is on the other side, which they just sold for, or did a deal for, $2.6 billion. And our land package is exactly the same size as theirs. We've got multiple high-grade gold veins running from one end of the property to the other. We've done a small resource on the upper portion of one mine. We've got 119,000 ounces running 10.4 grams per ton. And so we've got multiple opportunities there to expand that. They're currently at 4 million ounces, and I think we have a great potential to achieve significant ounces within this belt. Over the last 3 years, an opportunity came forward where we got introduced to a company called Digital Novamera, and they came out. They were a mining group out in Newfoundland, and they've come up with some new technology, innovative new technology for scoping underground and creating some imagery of veins below, using some new imagery technology with some AI. And then on top of that, what they've done and what we're about to deploy, which is really what's exciting, is the first time in the world we're using a directional head on a bore drill to follow the vein down and do a bulk sample. And it's been a few years in production. We got both Memorial, UBC University, the federal government, the provincial government are all involved, and they put together about a $10 million budget to execute on this. And so when they chose our property as having the highest potential to show the significance and success of this operation. So the borehead was a directional borehead that itself in the oil fields is done, but only with 12-inch drill heads. This is a 2.5 meter wide head. It was built in Italy. It's been shipped over. It's in Newfoundland now. And then actually DDV, which is a bore drilling company out of the Netherlands. I went over there and met with that team. It's a family-owned office and super bright group of engineers. They did a lot of the windmills around. They did almost all the windmills around the UK. You know, they built platforms sitting in the ocean to drill for oil and all that. So they're the drilling company that's managing the program. And so they brought over one of their drills. Those things are like worth $4.5 million for their drill. And the head was built in Italy. All that's assembled in all that's in Newfoundland now. And actually today, the day that we're speaking, they're in the midst of shipping it to the property. We just announced our permit finally last week that everything's done. And so we're moving all the equipment on the property, and we're going to drill 3 100-meter holes and do a 2,700 ton bulk sample. And we're targeting some of the higher grade zones within our resource that we have there, which is right at pretty much at surface. So we're looking at material somewhere north of 11 grams per ton. So and we've got some news coming out on our recoveries, and we've got all our equipment moving out there. We've got a mobile processing plant that we're putting out on site. So we'll be processing the gold right there. And what we're going to do is all the free gold will go off to the Bank of Montreal or into a safety deposit box, and then the other con, which will be a 60% con and 15% con, will be storing in a secured facility, and we're using that to develop a recipe for building out our dory bars, and we'll be working with a couple of the assay groups to do that. All of that's occurring now. It's all funded. It's funded through this digital cluster program. And we expect to have the first drill. You know, this is a big drill, right? So Frank, it's got to set up with a crane and everything. It's going to take about a month to set all this up as we're moving the equipment out there. And so we expect that the first week of September it'll start turning, right? And from there it'll be probably about a 3-month program, and we'll complete this bulk sample. If that all goes well, then we'll roll out into our plan is to roll out into a small mines operation like that, continuing along our 120,000 ounces that we have in that one zone, and then using that money to roll and develop the rest of the property where we've got multiple high-grade gold veins all over. We just announced another drill program on some vein structures that are to the north called the Jacqueline North. And that area there, I had a friend of mine, Dr. Karsten Eden. He's in charge of the Atlantic State Trust of mineral assets in Alaska. and he developed a program for us there. He's had lots of discoveries. So we've got that permit, and we'd like to deploy that and see what we can develop, because we think that these vein structures all run together. So it's a huge opportunity for us, and it's undilutive capital that's being deployed into the ground on a world first, basis. And if this works, I mean, these guidance holes that have been done by Novamera are being used all over by big companies now, and everybody's ready to see how this new technology with the directional head on the bore drill is going to work, because it's never been done before. If it does, it's changed the mining industry. That means high grade narrow vein mining will change forever. You got one person can operate the drill, another person operating the guidance AI directional computer to guide the drill as it's going down. And then it's non-invasive. It's very environmental friendly. So you can go close to streams and stuff like that, and under roadways, and you can guide the drill in following the traverse of the vein itself, right? So we make a very small environmental footprint, and you're pulling out, for the most part, material that would be hopefully ore grade, right? So you're saving all kinds of costs on underground mining, and so it's very innovative, and a lot of eyeballs will be on it. I think we're going to get a lot of press about it as we go forward, and if it's successful, we can continue on the property doing this. That's our plan, right?
I'd love to see that drill in action.
Yeah, well, like our neighbors are spending $100 million on capex, right, to build their, like, they're literally right beside us, right? And so here we are going forward, and we've got this opportunity to do this for very low cost, So yeah, we'll see how it works, but it could change the opportunities in small high grade mining around the world, right? So because we know a lot of the majors have been involved with Novamera, everyone's sort of waiting to see how this is going to work, right? And we were just the first ones on board to say, okay, yeah, we'll put up our hands, we'll take a shot with you guys. And it was 2 years going back and forth and looking at different projects, and they chose our project to proceed with. So,
got it.
Yeah.
Let's talk gold. What volatile markets and inflation pressures? How does gold exploration fit into the broader investor appetite, and what role does Great Atlantic play in that narrative?
Well, gold has been God's money for 5,000 years, tried, true, and trusted, right? And we've seen all fiat currencies fail at some point in time. There's over 700 different fiat currencies in the planet. They they burn and burn. They just print that paper and out it goes. But gold will buy you, in Roman times, a suit of armor and a sword and a little Java or a drink of, and it'll still buy you a suit of armor and your suit and your cup of coffee today, right? Yeah. It's always been a tried and true form of preservation of wealth. And so gold has always been my personal focus. I've always been wanting to get into the running our own little production scenario, and I think that we have the opportunity here to do that with Great Atlantic. And we're sitting in a belt that's it's very, it's all staked. We've got we've got a major producer, one of the largest producers, coming into production right beside us, literally 1 kilometer away, with 1 million ounces. So we're sitting on a really great opportunity. And over the last few years, we've paid it all off. So we own it 100%, right? But gold is like, you can go anywhere in the world and it's an international currency. You don't have to speak the language. You can put an ounce of gold down and, people understand what that is, right?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
So,
tell us about your experience as a mining executive. What lessons from the past ventures are shaping your leadership and strategic decisions today?
Yeah, well, I've been a serial entrepreneur my whole life.
Okay.
And I built a couple of newspapers, so I learned about marketing and promotion, and then I got involved in the mining space just when the .com boom was coming. But I got involved with a group of senior miners, and the .com boom crashed, and I stuck around with a couple of senior geos that came from the SO mining camp, and I used my publishing expertise and their mining expertise, and we created a thing called Canadian Diamond Notes, and we did a lot of exploration for diamonds around Canada. We learned a lot about, I learned about the mining business from some very good geos that have been in the business for decades.
Okay.
And then from there, we started staking and we started developing. And then I started working with a group. We put a small gold mine into production in Cieneguita, Mexico. And then we developed an asset, brought a pre-feasibility that was taken over by Hunter Dickinson Group in New Brunswick, and then ventured into Great Atlantic and said to the, you know, one of the younger geos that I've been working with for 25 years here is that, you know, why don't we pick off some of these key assets? We know where they are in Atlantic Canada, you know, why don't we focus on some of these assets here and assemble them in Great Atlantic? So that's what we've been doing. One particular thing that I've learned is that, because you know, I've gone through this phase of development learning. It's a very complex between marketing, promotion, finance, geology, you know, learning everything. And I'm the type of guy, like, when the driller's drilling, I want to know, you know, how do you change the head on the drill? And when you're doing a financing, you know, I've done all those board meetings across through Europe and been to all those luncheons, you know. And when you're doing marketing, the marketing atmosphere changes. So when high frequency trading came out, I read all about, you know, our RBC champion who figured out what was going on in the high frequency trading atmosphere, and I've had to learn the markets as well. So I accumulation of that overall knowledge today. One of the big things, especially since COVID and the changes in the junior market, you know, we've seen the real estate market take off in Canada and the condo market. And what that did was it took away, with that in combination with the Bitcoin and with the marijuana, it took away a lot of the speculative dollars in the junior market. And right now, all that's crashing. Like the condo market.
There's always the new guy. There's always the new guy. There's always the new thing. But gold and precious metals have been around forever.
Yeah. So this, what I'm saying is those areas now are depleted now. I mean, the condo market's crashing. So all this speculative capital, I think, is going to flow back into the junior market, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to come in a big wave in the gold space because of what we got going on with inflation and all those types of things. And so you asked me about one of the key things. I think one of the key things for me, that one of the lessons, is timing. And I've had a lot of false starts where, you know, because when you're drilling and you're exploring, it's a lot of money you deploy in the ground, and at the same time you also have to deploy it in the market, so that you're drilling for investors and bringing awareness to people to tell them about the story. You have a great story, but if you can't tell it, nothing's going to happen.
It's all
right?
about eyeballs. It's the same thing with this business. It's all about eyeballs, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, if you have 300 views, you know, you're going to get X. If you have 3 million views, you're going to get much more. So,
Yeah.
you know,
You're going to find, like, you're the first podcast I've agreed to do with in a few years. Like, because, like, you know, we've had a few false starts, like, ready to go. And I've got the phone call, okay, your permit's coming tomorrow. And we were almost ready there at the beginning of the year. And we just got it last week. So I just said, okay, now I'm ready to go. Right.
perfect.
So now we're ready to go.
I'm
We're
glad
ready.
to have you on. I mean, you have a lot going on here.
Yeah.
You know, you have an absolute lot going on here. I mean, the junior mining space is pretty crowded and competitive, no doubt. You know,
Yeah.
what makes Great Atlantic Resources a compelling story for institutional or retail investors right now?
Well, you've got an innovative technology that's going to change the mining, being deployed on the ground with a $10 million budget, $3.8 million going into the drilling itself. That's undiluted capital on a resource that we have that's high grade, that's going to provide us with gold that Great Atlantic will have. We need to change that into a mining license to continue on mining it, but that's not a difficult hurdle to achieve.
Okay.
And then on top of that, we own all the properties ourselves, 100%. And you've got an experienced team, you know, with that's got a little bit of a track record at finding good assets. And we're sitting beside a $2.6 billion asset with 4 million ounces of gold that's going into production right now. I mean, they're pouring dory bars, and we're in the same belt.
That's my next question.
Yeah.
That was my next question.
Yeah. So
what it was many of your claims are located near producing historically productive sites, right?
Yeah.
How do you leverage existing infrastructure or geological data to accelerate your exploration?
Well, you know, our particular belt there, since the railroad concessions were freed up, and on this particular belt of properties that we have there, we've got over 35,000 meters of drilling in the area, in our belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we put together a resource on just one part. We've got great infrastructure. It's easy access. We got highways and roads there, and a very friendly government that wants to see development come forward, and our economic costs for utilizing labor and housing and all that kind of stuff it's better there as well, right? Like we're not taking a helicopter and flying to the site. You can go to Tim Hortons, buy a coffee, and drive to the site, basically. So we got that kind of thing going for us, and we are in an area now where we've got a major sitting beside us, and I think that we would be. What we did in Great Atlantic is we took all our gold assets in that belt and we put them into a wholly owned sub called Golden Promise Mines Inc. Okay. So we are all contained. So if down the road at some point somebody wanted to make us some phenomenal offer, right? We'd be set up to be able to exercise on that should we decide to do that. I'm not saying we will, but should we decide to do that? With the other avenue would be to take that whole thing and take that and put it public as well for our benefit of our Great Atlantic shareholders.
I mean, how do you balance the risk, especially across multiple early stage properties, while maintaining momentum and shareholder confidence?
Well, that's been difficult to do, and obviously,
it's you got a lot of things going on. They want answers. They put money up. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, I think when you look at a lot of mining executives and you look at what's going on, you want to see what their ownership is, right? And if you go on and you look at the insider files at my personal ownership, you'll see I'm over 30%, right? So I've been pulling my credit card out and holding the water because I actually believe in everything we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that says a lot. I'm speaking with my wallet here, but and we have not, we were up at 40, 50, 80 cents. We were up in that area.
I was just going to ask you, where are you trading? What markets are you in?
9 cents Canadian.
And
right?
What's your symbol?
It's a GR is the symbol.
Okay, and it trades on what exchange?
On the venture exchange.
Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So throughout this last few years, we haven't rolled the stock back. We've had a strong group of inner supporters that have supported the stock while we got it.
Sure.
And we tried to do everything, and that was timing is what I was talking about, because it's that urge to get exciting and go forward, but not before you got everything lined up, right? And now I feel we've got capital that's covering our costs of our bulk sample, being deployed. We got all the equipment here, which we moved from the Netherlands, from Italy, and everything's on site. And we got all our permits, and we're moving stuff onto site now. Now it's the time to talk and tell the story, right? Now it's time to go back out into the marketplace, say, hey, we've got a resource, we're doing our bulk sample, this all works out. We're sitting beside a major producer here where now it's the time, right? So timing is one of the key things as being CEO that I think have cultivated over the last decade. This is crucial, because you can deploy things at the wrong time. You can spend money on marketing budgets at the wrong time. You have to have the goods and the eyeballs at the same time. And if you can line all that up with the wind at your back, not going against you, right? And we've got all those things, right? Like now we've got all that speculative capital that I think is coming into the junior market. We're in one of the hottest sectors, which is gold. We're sitting in a belt that's, it's juiced up with gold from one end to the other. Millions of dollars are being spent in there with a $2.6 billion producer beside us. And we're launching a non-dilutive capital bulk sample right into a high-grade zone in our property. And I think it's just perfect timing for us. So now it's time to get the eyeballs on. All the other stuff that we needed to get done is there. Now it's time to get eyeballs and tell the story. And I think that'll pan out well for all of the investors now and future investors.
Well, I can tell you something. I'm looking forward to seeing that drill. And finally, what milestones should investors and industry watchers be looking for over the next 6 to 12 months from Great Atlantic? And I think the drill is the one thing. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and also the recoveries. And I think we've been doing a little bit of work on the recoveries to see how that's going to work, and how the cost of operating this drill is comparable to other traditional forms of mining, right? So, and that's one of the key things that we want to develop here. We want to show the market that this is a very, not only world-changing, innovative, but a low capex type approach to high grade underground mining is going to change the industry. Will change the industry. On top of all that other stuff, we got, you know, other things going on. We were the first to discover emeralds in Newfoundland, and we got a program on that. I know it's shocking. We're the third in Canada to discover emeralds, and we've got emeralds there. We got a program going.
That's
Emeralds.
pretty impressive.
We just got written up in the American Institute of Gemology, right? And so we got a program starting about that in the September here. So you might want to watch for a little bit about that. I know a lot of people have been asking us about, what are you doing with the emeralds? What are you doing with the emeralds? So, but that's not our focus, right? Our focus is the golden promise. And then because we've got some pretty key assets, I think you can watch for some deal flow coming as well, because we want to direct the company, you know, focus on golden promise. And I think there might be some opportunity to spin off a couple of our non-core assets and bring back some stock and cash into the company, and for us to hold a position, have other companies, you know, advance some of our key assets. And I think you'll see some deal flow opportunity coming up here as well. Right.
Awesome. Christopher, thank you for coming on today. And thank you for giving us a front row seat into the next chapter in Canada's exploration story. If you're tracking undervalued assets with long-term upside in gold and strategic minerals, keep your eye on Great Atlantic. For more episodes, insights, and untold stories from the edge of innovation in finance, subscribe to Off-Road with Frank Ferraro, and always stay curious, stay informed, and stay off-road.